What is going on, my fellow degenerates? Welcome to church. This is the Fantasy Gods Extra Point, where we bring you all the news and updates of the week. We have a lot to get into and a lot of fun to talk about, man. It is Thursday. What does that mean, Brandon? Well, it means, first off, it's Baby Friday, right? You're right there. You're close. Keep pushing. But then it's also Thursday night football, which means we get to gamble. We get to do your fantasy football bets. We get to play all fantasy football games. We get all that and more. So I'm very much excited. I hope you are too. With that, let's break down what we have today, okay? So, Detroit Lions, Green Bay Packers. It is a -1, basically a pick 'em. Vegas is saying you do the hard work, we'll take the money. So, Detroit versus Green Bay. Where's it at, Brandon? It's in Lambeau Field. Lambeau Field is legendary because the Green Bay Packers, something in their blood gets boiling and they become a superhero team when they play at Lambeau. However, do know Aaron Jones, Christian Watson, very limited in practice. Some days didn't play. Okay, so with that, you got to understand there are implications for playing these Green Bay Packers, okay? Look at Romeo Doubs. Look at Jaden Reed in daily fantasy, right? A.J. Dillon, I'm not a fan of. I don't think he's doing much with the opportunity he's been given. If Aaron Jones plays, I'm fine with you starting him as a flex, but if you have other options, please look at other options. Because Aaron Jones and Christian Watson both did not get an opportunity much to kind of get that work in because of the fact that they were still dealing with injuries. Again, with that, looking at the Detroit side, Amon-Ra St. Brown played last week. He was a little injured, right? He was a little off. So something just to kind of definitely look at. If you saw last Tuesday's show, this past Tuesday, right? We just talked about the Mike Williams news. A lot of injury news coming out. You have not only that, you got Miles Sanders, who now has a groin injury. Austin Eckler, who has that ankle injury, has finally started practicing again. And then you got David Montgomery injury news. A lot of craziness. But right now, when it comes to this game, understand that Amon-Ra had a toe injury. Christian Watson and Aaron Jones look a little hobbled too. So just be careful who you're playing. And like always, with Thursday night games, please, if you're going to play any player, right, a wide receiver, a running back, whoever, make sure you start them. Don't put them at flex, because when you put them at flex, you lose the opportunity to make changes at that running back, wide receiver, tight end in the future. If a wide receiver gets hurt in practice, or if they are a game time decision at running back, or whatever the case. So if you're going to play a player, start them, just so you have that flex spot open. That's one of my favorite tidbits of information and helpful news for you guys. But looking at this, my parents taught me 3 really valuable lessons, right? When we look at this line, Detroit, 2-1. The Packers, 2-1, right? They are a 1-point favorite on the road, Detroit. My parents taught me 3 things in life, right? It's love your family, right? And God, right? Love your family and God, number 1. Treat people with respect, right? And always bet on home underdogs, baby, okay? I'm a Minnesota Vikings fan second. I'm a gambling man first, okay? Understand that. So I'm looking at the Packers right now at home. Detroit looks amazing. Something is in the water at Green Bay. Now, if I'm actually putting money on this bet, most likely I'd swing probably to looking at the over and under, only because this is a close matchup. But I think you are not wrong in probably thinking Detroit runs away with it. But I also believe we're looking at a Detroit team that is injured with David Montgomery, is injured with Amon-Ra St. Brown dealing with all that stuff with his toe still. It can be a different looking Detroit than we saw against the Chiefs, is what I'm saying. So, I mean, right now, David Montgomery is listed as questionable to play on Thursday. If you saw Jahmyr Gibbs, he finally got the workload. And even then, I think you might be feeling slighted a little bit that maybe he didn't show up as much as you might have wanted him, especially for fantasy. 17 for 80 yards, caught 1 pass. It was a weird game script. But let's talk about how we got here, right? Detroit beats the Chiefs on Thursday Night Football, right? Week 1. They lose to the Seahawks in a barn burner, an incredible game like we knew it was going to be, 37-31. The Falcons go ahead and they just absolutely crap the bed, and Detroit looks incredible. The Falcons could not get anything going. The Falcons have Bijan Robinson, and even then, he had 10 for 33 rushing. However, was utilized in the passing game. Kyle Pitts got some action in that game too. But Detroit, you saw Jahmyr Gibbs. You saw a lot of different runners, right? A lot of different people running in the backfield. You also saw Zonovan Knight, who was just added to the roster, I believe. And then you look at Amon-Ra, 9 for 102. He also was targeted 12 times. Guess who was the second most targeted? 11 targets. The guy that Brandon's been talking about for 3 weeks straight. How many? 1, 2, and 3. 3 weeks straight. Sam Laporta is dominant. 8 for 84 and a touchdown. Let's talk about it one more time. 8 for 84 and a touchdown. We're talking about a guy who looks like a star. I mean, we're talking about somebody who looks like he could legitimately be the outlier for rookie tight ends. We always talk about in fantasy football, rookie tight ends do not perform. They're not ever going to be anything like that. Sam Laporta, right now, in full PPR, is the number 2 tight end. Number 2 tight end. You are talking about a game-changing tight end. Take him in daily fantasy. And also, when we get to our prop bets, Sam Laporta's name is going to be in there, okay? So those are the big fantasy football questions. You got Aaron Jones is questionable, Christian Watson, but Romeo Doubs has done a lot with his opportunity. A lot of it is touchdown dependent, I'll be honest. You look at Romeo Doubs' numbers, they look great. They look exciting. They look fun. You look at it and you get excited. You go, oh my goodness, this guy, top 30 wide receiver. No doubt. No doubt. 18.6 points. First game against Chicago. Atlanta, he only puts up 5. New Orleans, he puts up this past game 5 for 73 and a touchdown. But he was targeted 12 times. 12 times is a massive, massive volume number. He's starting to create some really good opportunities with Jordan Love. So right now, he gave you 18, 2 games apart. One the first week, one last week. Now it's week 4. Romeo Doubs is somebody I think you should be playing at your flex. Somebody you could definitely ease into if you have wide receivers who are hurt or injured. Or, better yet, daily fantasy and prop bets, Romeo Doubs, somebody to look at. As well as Jaden Reed, who's gotten some long, long plays. Jordan Love is the truth, guys. Jordan Love is for real. As a Vikings fan, they've done it again. They did it again. They keep getting these quarterbacks who fit their system, who fit their needs, and who are just absolutely a fun quarterback to watch. I don't hate on Jordan Love. I can't. The guy is something about him. There's a certain swagger or a certain unfamiliarity or a certain something about him that tells me, yo, this dude's a baller. He can play. Now, am I saying this is Patrick Mahomes? No. But Jordan Love is better than I think you might have anticipated Jordan Love to be. The Packers are 2-1 because of some of the plays Jordan Love has made. He's rushing. He's passing great. Not making too many mistakes, still making a few. But I think this is going to be a close game. Jared Goff, right, goes nuclear to open up the year. Is having a great, great, great year, right? You talk about that first game against the Chiefs. Jared Goff was picking them apart. 253-1, right? Throws a touchdown, does his thing, goes against the Seahawks, and for the first time in a long time, I don't know what it was a ton of games. He almost broke the record, but throws for 323, 3 touchdowns, and finally an interception. Comes back last week, right? And he says, you know what? Had myself a rough week. Let's get back on track. 243 and a touchdown, but also another interception. The Packers could benefit from making him have a 3rd interception on the year, could benefit from creating turnovers, especially when you got a rookie running back, you got a rookie tight end, right? So it's going to be tough. One player I do want to mention that could be a sneaky play, a very sneaky play, opportunistic, one would say. Sam Laporta, incredible tight end for Detroit. Luke Musgrave. Luke Musgrave over there in Green Bay. Hey, you got my attention, Luke. You got my attention. Because Luke Musgrave is going against a defense who I believe ranks dead last against tight ends. I'm talking about absolutely basura, right? Now, Luke Musgrave, you hear that name and you go, dude, he hasn't even been that great. He's been okay, I guess. Really? He's a top 10 tight end. Number 10, Luke Musgrave. 8 points his first game, 4.5 the last game, 10.9 this past game. And guess what? The targets went up from Romeo Doubs. The targets went way up for Luke Musgrave. 8 targets, and he had 6 for 49. Not even a touchdown, and still was relevant. And let me tell you, tight ends are awful this year. They're hard to come by. Luke Musgrave should be played because he's going against an awful defense. One of the worst putrid defenses, period. I mean, they've had trouble with I think they're giving up like 87 yards on tight ends. I truly believe Luke Musgrave needs to be a start. If Kyle Pitts can get the ball with the Falcons, and he hasn't gotten the ball since he got drafted, Luke Musgrave is going to get the ball against Detroit. So I do like Luke Musgrave to be in this game. Jahmyr Gibbs, of course you play him. Of course you start him. If you're looking for daily fantasy, you people that play DraftKings, FanDuel, Underdog, stuff like that, just daily fantasy, not even props, just straight daily fantasy. You get to draft a team. You compete in a big pool. I love Luke Musgrave. Love Sam Laporta as well, of course. One name to keep in there is Khalif Raymond. Khalif Raymond from Detroit has been really solid. Had a touchdown against Seattle, and then he went 4 for 55 last game. I do think that's going to be an interesting one, so I like that as well. And then when you look on the other side, right, you look at Green Bay. Another player that I think could benefit this game, specifically for daily fantasy, for prop bets as well, is, of course, Jayden Reed. Jayden Reed has had himself a game. I mean, 3 for 63 last week against Atlanta, 4 for 37 and 10 and 10. Whoa, 4 for 37 and 2 touchdowns. And then even in Chicago was still targeted a good amount of times. Had some big long yardage plays. In week 1 and week 3, his longest reception was 30 yards. So he's making these huge plays. So I'm a big fan of Jayden Reed right now. I'm a big fan of what we can get value, prop bets wise. I'm a big fan of this matchup. So Thursday Night Football, that's kind of the breakdown so far. Let's talk about prop bets now, right? Like I said, home underdog, interesting there. If you're looking to take somebody in a parlay, looking to bet small but make a lot, I like Green Bay at home. If you're looking to bet smart and maybe take what seems to be the obvious choice, not obvious, I'm sorry, but just more of a likelihood of a choice, I think Detroit is a better squad. For some reason, though, the Packers, man, came back 17-0 against New Orleans. That's a great defense. I'm not counting them out at all. I do think it's going to be a really, really interesting game. But let's talk about prop bets. Go ahead and get open your PrizePicks, your Underdog Fantasy. I'm going to link my personal links for both of those platforms, Underdog and PrizePicks, in the link below. You can also find them on my Twitter. I'll post them on my Twitter as well. Please go check that out. Go sign up. You're missing out on money. Another week down. 3 weeks in a row, we've been profitable with prop bets. I promise you. We're posting some. Now listen, prop bets are wild. You're going to lose quite a bit, right? You're going to lose a few, and the ones that you win outweigh all those losses. So you got to make a lot, right? You make a lot of little bets. So one that I have, Luke Musgrave, higher than 36.5 receiving yards. Love that one. Has hit that 2 out of 3 times, and we just talked about the targets he's getting. Sam Laporta, higher than 4 receptions. How many times has he hit that, Brandon? 100 times. 100% of the times he has hit this number. He's gone over 4 receptions. I also like Sam Laporta over his yardage total, which right now, as it stands, right, I can't tell you what you're looking at, but as the recording of this, 42.5 receiving yards, give me that. The other one that I like in this game, we talked about Jayden Reed. Jayden Reed, higher than 35.5 receiving yards. He's hit that every single game. I expect at least a couple long balls. And then one that nobody's talking about, one that you might not even know about. I'm going to say this name and you're going to go, what? Who's that? What's going on? What's happening right now? Let me just say, I have a defensive player in my prop bets. A defensive player is in my prop bets. And let me tell you why. I really like the opportunity on the defensive side for Detroit for Brian Branch. Okay, Brian Branch is super solid on the Detroit side. He is a rookie, and you look at it, 11 tackles, including 3 tackles for a loss and 2 pass breakups, right? Every defensive snap, he was out there. He had a great opportunity, win against Bijan Robinson, one of the premier running backs, and still looked really solid. You have Gardner Johnson on Detroit, who's probably going to be missing the next few weeks. So I think Branch could remain as a go-to guy, and he just had 11 last week in his first time, starting the whole game. I think 5.5 tackles and assists. This seems doable to me, so I took a shot on it too. So I like those a lot. Now, if we're talking about general, Brandon, let's talk about post Thursday. Give me some sneak peeks into the Fantasy Gods Sunday morning show, right? Which airs 10:30 to 11:30 a.m. Central here on the Alamo City Podcast Network. Also on my Twitter at Big Poppy Brandon M, Facebook, all that good stuff. But let me help you out here, guys. I'm giving you a little bit sneak peek, right? I'm taking you behind the curtain a little bit, right? I'm taking you behind where we make the bread and butter over here, okay? So, one that I like a lot, Brian Robinson Jr., 52.5 rushing yards, right? I might have said this on Tuesday. I'm telling you again today. Brian Robinson Jr. is a great one that I'm sticking with moving forward. 52.5 rushing yards. He's going against Philadelphia. Philadelphia almost gave up this number to Rachaad White. Brian Robinson gets way more work and is way more talented. He just put up 70 against Buffalo. I trust this. Trust the process. He's hit this a ton of times in his career. And guess what? Last year, he faced Philadelphia week 10 and obliterated this line. So I love it. I'm super in on Brian Robinson this week. I like it a lot. The other one I'm into right now, Evan Ingram from Jacksonville. Jacksonville is quietly making Evan Ingram somebody I really, really like. His line is 46.5. He's hit that every week. You look at the opportunity of this game. They're going against Atlanta. Atlanta has given up quite a bit to tight ends in their games. Let's look at Atlanta's previous games just to kind of get a feel for what we're looking at, right? They played against the Lions last week. Guess what? Sam Laporta's best game of his career so far, 8 for 84, okay? You go back and you say, okay, there's one. Give me another, Brandon. Well, they played against the Packers. Luke Musgrave, 2 for 25. That was his lowest, but still got plenty of targets, and that whole team actually had a really good game. And then you look at, the Panthers as it stands right now. The Panthers also, Hayden Hurst, that was week 1, only one to score a touchdown, 5 for 41. If Hayden Hurst can get 41, Evan Ingram can get, no problem, 46.5. I like that one. There's also a lot of talk about Jordan Love's rushing. I think he maybe goes over, especially if Aaron Jones is out. That's at 16.5 right now. And then the one that I like I told you guys, Jaden Reed. And then finally, here's one that I really like, guys. It's going to be a little wild. And I'm saving one or two for Sunday, of course. I can't give you all the goods, but one that I do like, truly. One that I think could be an interesting bet for you as a prop bettor, and that I think could be making it into some of my favorites as far as the weekend goes, only for the fact that the opportunity alone seems to make sense, and that's Kenneth Walker for 62.5 rushing yards. When you look at Kenneth Walker and you talk about what he's done with Seattle, he has been the guy, right? He went for 97 last week, right? He went for 114 back in January, and in between, this line is smack dab in the middle, 63, 64, 43. And I believe this line will move up. Like I said, I got it at 62.5. I love it there. I think he hits that. Anything more, 64, I'm not taking it. But if you can get them early, get them early. This is Thursday. Get those bets in early. And like we said on Tuesday, Nico Collins, stop playing with me. I'm taking Nico Collins. I'm not going to allow our betting favorite to just let us down again. Okay? Nico Collins had one bad game, last game. And even then, he did not let us down. Okay? Because he's given us so much profit that we cannot be mad at one bad game. Nico Collins last week in a 37-17 Houston win over Jacksonville that I called, that I told you guys be ready for the upset. He still had 2 for 34, was only targeted 3 times. That's an outlier of all outliers. Right now, he's at 50.5. His 2 previous games, 146 and 80 and massive target volume. That was an outlier. They locked him down. I'm not nervous about Pittsburgh. They've been getting passed on. They've gave up a lot already. Take Nico Collins over 50.5 receiving yards. This has been the Fantasy Gods Extra Point. My name is Brandon Medina. Please follow me on Twitter at Big Papi Brandon M. Follow the network, Alamo City Podcast Network. Follow the show. Subscribe. All that good stuff. We will have Apple Podcasts and Spotify coming up very, very soon for all of you people asking. And don't worry, we're here with you throughout playoffs, Super Bowl, past football. We'll talk basketball. We'll talk more. I promise you, the Fantasy Gods got you all year around. It's time to get in now. If you need to get into any prop bets and parlays to make money, we are making so much good money. Okay? I have group chats and people are getting upset because, hey, that one didn't hit, but this one hit, and that one didn't hit, but this one hit, or this one hit for only this much, but that one hit for that much. You gotta be willing to play ball with the big boys, okay? So, with that, I'm gonna be putting up my prop picks, putting up all my player picks all over Twitter. Go check them out. Go share them. See where the lines stand, okay? And then you make your own adjusted decision, all right? But I promise you, we got you. The past 2 weeks, if you're a normal bettor, overs, unders, money lines, spreads, all that good stuff, my can't miss parlay of the week has hit 2 weeks in a row. You are making crazy money. You are up a couple of good units, probably 6 to 7 units because of that. So keep tuning in every Sunday, 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. right before kickoff, giving you plenty of time to change lineups, make some last minute pickups, daily fantasy conversations, all that good stuff. I love it. I'm ready. Prop bets, everything. So keep tuning in. Follow me on Twitter. If you need to get onto PrizePicks or Underdog Fantasy, that's in the description below and also on my Twitter. But I appreciate you tuning in. This has been the Fantasy Gods Extra Point. I will see you guys on Sunday. And like always, until then, may the Fantasy Gods be with you.